3.5 Equations of lines. So when we think of lines or equations of lines, just the word lines in math, we probably think of y equals mx plus b, right? That's probably what we think of. And that's what I want you to think of. That is the best thing to think of when we're talking about lines. That is actually called slope-intercept form. The reason why it's called slope-intercept form, if I bring it down a little bit, is because the m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and write an equation of a line with y-intercept 0, -5, and slope 2/3. So equation of a line, we know that is y equals mx plus b. Then we are given two things. We're given a slope and we're given a y-intercept. So we're going to plug it in. When you plug in the y-intercept, you only plug in the actual number, not the 0, the value, the real value of a number. So we have y equals m, which is 2/3. X always goes on the side, plus b. So we don't do plus, right? We don't do plus minus. We just do, so we don't do that. Right, we wouldn't write it that way, right? We would write it instead, y equals 2/3 x minus 5. So that is our equation of a line, given this intercept and a slope. Alright, let's find an equation of a line given 2 points. This is one way to do it. There are two other ways that I know of, and this is the way I prefer. Use any way you want. I'm going to teach it this way, but again, use any method you want to use. I don't care. As long as I can follow your work after you submit it, we're all good to go. So whenever you see find equation line, you're going to follow these steps. The first step, you're going to find the slope. After you find the slope, you're going to use the y-intercept for our slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. You're going to plug in m, which is the slope, and then you're going to plug in x and y from a given point. That's going to give you b. After you find b, you plug it back into y equals mx plus b along with the slope, and then if you need general form or standard form, we keep going. So general form or standard form is ax plus by equals c. No fractions are allowed, and a must be positive. We're going to practice with all of this. So let's find an equation of a line with slope -2 that passes through -11, -12. Write the equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So that means our final answer should look like y equals mx plus b. Right, because we see find equation line, we know that we're going to use those 5 steps. So our first step is to always find the slope, which is our m. So luckily, we were actually given the slope. Change colors on that one. We were given the slope. So we have that. Now, that's all we're given other than a point. But that's okay. That's all our first step is to do, is just find that slope. So it's -2. Our second step is to still use y equals mx plus b. But what we're going to do is we're going to plug in m and a point. So the point they gave us was -11, 12. So that's x, that's y. So let's plug it in. So we have y, which is 12, equals m, which is -2, times x, which is -11, plus b. So let's simplify this. We have 12 equals 22 plus b. We multiply these. Subtract 22 to both sides. And when we finally do, we get negative, sorry, that's supposed to be negative 12. I wrote it down wrong right here. That's negative 12, negative 12, negative 12. There we go. I'm sorry about that. So when we plug it in, we do negative 12 and negative 22. We get negative 34 equals b. So that's what b is. Now our third step, we're going to plug in m and b into y equals mx plus b. So we have y equals m. Our m, remember, is negative 2. Plus b. So since it's minus 34, we're just going to put negative 34. And since it wanted it in slope-intercept form, we're good to go. That is our final answer. These are the steps every time you want to find a line given certain things. You can be given a slope, 2 points, and certain other things. You'll learn later on. Okay, let's write an equation of a line through negative 4, 0, and 6, negative 1. We're going to write it in standard form now. Okay, so since we see right, equation, line, we know we're going to use those 4 steps. In this case, 4, because we have to do standard form. So no matter what, our first step is to always find the slope. Sometimes it's given, sometimes it's not. Here we have 2 points. Since we have 2 points, we need to use the slope formula of y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we have our x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's go ahead and plug it in. So we have negative 1 minus 0 over 6 minus negative 4, because this is our y2, y1, x2, x1. And remember, we're getting them from the points up here. Let's go ahead and simplify. So we have negative 1 over, wrong color, my bad. Negative 1 over 10. It's 10 because those minus minus become positive in the middle. So that's our m. Our m is negative 1 over 10. It does not matter where the negative goes. You can put it anywhere you want. Negative 1 over 10 is the same thing as negative 1 over 10, and that's the same thing as 1 over negative 10. Those all mean the same exact thing. We usually put it to the side or put it to the top. We hardly ever keep it on the bottom. Alrighty, our second step, we need to find b. To find b, we plug in m and the point. Since we have 2 points, you pick any point you want to. I'm going to pick negative 4, 0 because they're smaller numbers. That's it. And I have a 0 in there. No other reason. Literally, the only reason why. It's because there's 0. On the notes, I actually plugged in, on the paper notes that you can access, I plugged in 6 and negative 1, so you can see how that works out too. It's going to be the same exact answer. So the point we're going to use is negative 4, 0. And what we plug it into is y equals mx plus b. So we have our point, x and y. So we have 0 equals m, which is negative 1 over 10, times x, which is negative 4, and since it's of near a fraction, I'm going to put negative 4 over 1, and that's plus b. Okay, Let's go ahead and simplify our fraction. So we multiply straight across. You can cross simplify if you want. I like to multiply straight across and then do it. So you have 0 equals negative and negative is positive. So 1 times 4 is 4. 10 times 1 is 10 plus b. Let's simplify our fraction. So we have 0 equals 2 over 5 plus b. They're both even. Since they're both even, you can divide by 2. I'm going to bring this up here since I'm out of space. So we have 0 equals 2/5 plus b. I'm going to subtract 2/5 to both sides. So our b is negative 2/5. Awesome. Now that we found our b, our third step, we're going to plug in m, and we're going to plug in b into y equals mx plus b. All right, we have y equals m, which is negative 1/10 x, plus b, so since it's a negative, we do minus 2/5. Since it's wanting standard form, we need to keep going. So we have a fourth step now. We need standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. There are no fractions and a is positive. So I don't know if you noticed something about standard form. X and y are on the same side. So that's what we're doing. We're rearranging it to get it on the same side. This is such a key concept in calculus, that we get x and y on the same side to work with it sometimes. And you'll see that this semester as well, how we're going to put x and y on the same side to work with it, and it's going to make it be able to be worked with. Alright, so I'm going to rewrite the equation we have, y equals negative 1/10 x minus 2/5. So the first thing that we need to do is no fractions. So we need to multiply it by the common denominator. So we have 10 and 5. We need to go up in numbers to see if they can match. So 10 and 5. I can make 5 be 10 because 5 times 2, right? So I'm going to multiply everything by 10 over 1. We have 10 times y equals 10 over 1 times negative 1 over 10x, and then all minus 10 over 1 times 2/5. So we cross multiply here. I'm just going to show you that we can. So 10 times y is 10y. We can cancel out our 10s here. And 10 and 5, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So what we have left is nothing times negative 1x, so negative 1x. Negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4. We're going to add x over. It's 1. You can put the 1 there, but you don't have to. It's the same thing. So we have x plus 10y equals negative 4. So ax is positive. There's no fractions. That's our final answer. Alright, write the equation of a line graphed. Write the equation in standard form. So it doesn't matter. It says write equation line. We bust out those few steps. Alright, so our first step is to find the slope. So when we're given a picture, it's actually super easy to find the slope. We count pretty point to pretty point. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous, but that's what I call it. So pretty point to pretty point is like perfect crossing point, perfect crossing point. Okay, so remember, slope is rise over run. So let's see how much we rise. We go up 2, and we go right 6. So up is positive, right is positive. So we have positive 1/3 is our slope. Our second step is y equals mx plus b. Remember, we also plug in m and a point. So use one of the pretty points that you selected. I'm going to use this one right here because it's positive. That is 2, 5. So I'm going to use 2, 5 for our point. All right, so we have our x and we have our y. We have 5 equals m, which is 1/3, times x, which is 2. Since it's near a fraction, I'm going to put 2 over 1, plus b. We're going to simplify our fraction by multiplying straight across. So we have 5 equals 2/3 plus b. I'm going to bring this over here because I'm out of space. So we have 5 equals 2/3 plus b. Next, we're going to subtract 2/3. And when we do, we're left with 5 minus 2/3 equals b. So let's go ahead and figure this out. So 3 times 1 is 3, so times 3 times 3. We'll have 15 over 3 minus 2/3 equals b. So 13 over 3 equals b. All right, now we have our b. So our third step is to use y equals mx plus b again, but this time we plug in m and we plug in b. So y equals m. Remember the m that we found was 1/3. So 1/3 x plus b. So 13 over 3. And now it says to express it in standard form. Since it says to express in standard form, we need to take that fourth step. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of those fractions. To get rid of the fractions, I'm going to multiply everything by 3. So everything is going to be multiplied by the denominator of 3. So we have 3 times y equals 3 over 1 times 1/3 x plus 3 over 1 times 13 over 3. Let's cross simplify diagonally. So 3 and 3 cancel. 3 and 3 cancel. We're left with 3y equals nothing times 1x, so 1x, plus nothing times 13, so 13. We subtract x over. Remember, 1x and x are the same exact thing. So we have negative x plus 3y equals 13. We're not allowed to have a negative. We can't have negative ax. So to get rid of it, we're going to multiply everything by negative 1, because that's what we're not allowed to have, so let's take it out. So negative times negative x is positive x. Negative times 3y is negative 3y, and negative times 13 is negative 13. Do you notice when you multiply or divide by a negative, you just switch all the signs? That's what we're doing. We're just switching all the signs. Alrighty. Example 5. In 1997, Window World Incorporated had 50 employees. In 2012, the company had 85 employees. Let X represent the number of years after 1997, and let Y represent the number of employees. Assume that the relationship between years and number of employees is linear. Write an equation describing the relationship. This is just a fancy way of saying write equation line. That's all. So we're still going to do those steps. So it doesn't matter if this looks different. Our first step is to still find the slope. We are not given the slope, so we absolutely need to find it. So we're given two pieces of information. We're given 1997 50 employees, And then 2012, 85 employees. Since we're talking about points here, we're obviously talking about X and Y, and it tells us X represents number of years after 1997. And then it's telling us Y represents the number of employees. So the 2 points we have 1997. Sorry. We have our two values. Sorry, 1997, 50 employees, 2012, 85 employees. Since X represents the number of years after 1997, if we have 1997 and 50, you see it's not after. It's not after. It is 1997. So that is 0 years after 1997, they had 50 employees. That's our X1, Y1. Then it told us that in 2012, they had 85 employees. But we need to know how many years is that after 1997. So we do 2012 minus 1997, and we get 15 years. So this is 1585, and that's X1, Y1. So that's 15 years after 1997. So let's go ahead and find our slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we have, my bad, that's x2, y2, x2, y2, 1585, x2, y2. So we have y2, which is 85, minus y1, which is 50, over x2, which is 15, minus x1, which is 0. So 85 minus 50, we get 35. 15 minus 0 is 15. They both have 5, so we divide by 5. And we get 7 over 3 is our m. Alright, now that we found our m, our second step does not change. So I need a lot more space. Give me 1 second, bear with me. Bear with me. Of course, when I want the keyboard, it never shows up. There we go. Alright, our second step is to use y equals mx plus b, and we use m, and we use a point. So the point I'm going to use is 0 and 50. Why? Smaller numbers. So this is where I'm getting that point from, 0, 50. And our m that we found was 7 over 3. So we have y equals 7 over 3. My bad, we know what y is. It's 50 xy. So 50 equals m, which is 7 over 3, times x, which is 0, plus b. So 50 equals 0 plus b. That means 50 equals b. What do you notice? Don't we already have that number of 50? When x is 0? Because remember, this b isn't at the y-intercept. The y-intercept is always 0 number. We found our b. It's already there. But it's okay if you don't see it. Your y-intercept is called your initial value. And your initial value is how much you start off with. So don't we start with 50 employees? That's why it's our initial value. That's why it's our y-intercept. That's why it's our b. Awesome, right? All right, so now that we found our b, our third step, I'm going to do it up here, is to still use y equals mx plus b. But in this time, we only plug in m and b. We have y equals rm of 7/3 x and our b of 50. That is our model. So we can actually use this to figure out how many employees they'll have in any given time. And that's what Part B is asking us to do. Use this equation to predict the number of employees in 2007. So it's telling us how many employees will we have in 2007, but we need to know how many years after is that from 1997. So 2007 minus 1997, and we get 10 years. So X that we're going to use is 10 because we started collecting this data in 1997. So when we do this, we need to know how many years have passed since 1997. Let's go ahead and plug in 10. We have y equals 7 over 3x, which is 10, plus 50. So we multiply straight across. So we have 70 over 3 plus 50. We need the same denominator, so I'm going to put this over 1. 3 times 1 is 3, so times 3 times 3. We have y equals 70 over 3 plus 150 over 3. So y equals 220. So it's 70 plus 150 is 220 over 3. And that is approximately 73.3. So the company had about 73 employees, because you can't have a third of a person, in 2007. I just want to break down a little bit for us about the slope. So our slope is 7 over 3. That's about 2.33. So that means they gain 2 employees every year. That's what the slope means. That's what's the change. That's what's happening. Because the slope, another name for slope, is called average rate of change. If you took chemistry and biology, you might have heard of that term. So the average rate of change, we are gaining about 2 employees every year. All right, write equations of vertical and horizontal lines. So a vertical line, that's x equals, because this is what a vertical line looks like. And you see how it crosses the x-axis? That's why it's x equals. A horizontal line is y equals, because it looks like this, and it crosses the y-axis. That's why it's y equals. So let's write the equation of a horizontal line containing the point 4, 5. So I want to paint this picture. The point 4, 5 is right here, and we're looking for a horizontal line. So a horizontal line that goes through that point would have to look like this, right? Because it goes through the point. So what axis does it cross? It crosses the y-axis. Remember that this is x-axis, y, or my bad, opposite. X-axis, y-axis, so it crosses through the y-axis. We're going to have y equals, and the y it crosses through is 5. Y equals 5. You don't even need to draw that picture. If it says horizontal line, it's y equals whatever the y is in that point. Let's write the equation of a line containing the point 4, 5 with an undefined slope. So undefined means can't be done. So when we're talking about our two types, this slope is a slope of 0. So y equals, you have a slope of 0. X equals, you have an undefined slope. How do I know the difference? Flat is 0 slope, meaning there's no up or down, there's no incline. I can walk a flat surface. An undefined slope is straight up and down. We cannot walk straight up and down, right? We can't just do like in Minecraft where we just start walking straight up. We can't do that. So that's why it's called undefined slope. So undefined slope is always going to be x equals, and the x and our point is 4. Finding equation of parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel means same. Perpendicular means opposite. So if it's parallel, you have the same slope. If it's perpendicular, you flip and change the sign. Alright, let's write an equation of a line containing the point -2, 4 and is parallel to the line x plus 3y. Let's write the equation in slope-intercept form. Alright, we see right equation line. That means we bust out those steps. So our first step is to find the slope. So the slope, it tells us that it's parallel to this line. That means the slope comes from x plus 3y equals 6. And in order to determine the slope, we need to put it into y equals mx plus b. So let's solve for y. We're going to subtract x to both sides. When we do, we have 3y equals -x plus 6. Divide everything by 3. So we're left with y equals -1/3 x plus 2. Whenever there's just an x there, remember there's a 1. There's always a 1. So the given slope is -1/3. And since it states it wants to be parallel, the parallel slope is the same, which is -1/3. So we're going to use -1/3 as our slope. Our second step is y equals mx plus b. Our slope and the point that they give us. They give us -2, 4. Let's plug it in. We have, y, which is 4, equals m, which is -1/3, x, which is -2, plus b. Let's multiply straight across. So we have 4 equals -2/3 plus b. We're going to add 2/3 over. We have 4 over 1 plus 2 over 3 equals b. So same denominator times 3 times 3. So 12 over 3 plus 2 over 3 equals b. So we have 10 over 3 equals b. Now our third step is to still use y equals mx plus b, but this time we plug in m and b. So we have y equals m, which is -1/3, x plus b, so plus 10 over 3. And it wants it in slope-intercept form, so we're good to go. Alright, let's write an equation of the line containing the point 3, -5 and perpendicular to the line 3x plus 2y equals 7. It says to write equation line, so we're going to do our steps. The first thing we need to do is find the slope. So this is something special. It says it's perpendicular to this line. How do we know that we need to find the slope from something else? Is because we're not given 2 points and we're not given the slope. We're given a point and a line. If we're given a point and an equation, we need to pull out the slope. So it says perpendicular. What that means is that the slope comes from 3x plus 2y equals 7. And remember, perpendicular means opposite. So opposite means we change everything about it. We're going to flip everything about it. So let's go ahead and find the slope of this line. So 3x plus 2y equals 7. We're going to subtract 3x. The only way to find the slope is to get y by itself. So 2y equals negative 3x plus 7. We're going to divide everything by 2. Remember, math is fair. So we have y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 7 over 2. So the given slope is negative 3 over 2. If we want the perpendicular slope, we flip the fraction. So 3 over 2 becomes 2 over 3. And we change the sign. So negative becomes positive. This is the slope we're going to use. Our second step is y equals mx plus b. We're going to use our slope of 2/3. And remember, we use our point. So the point they gave us was 3, negative 5. So we have negative 5 equals m, which is 2/3, times x, which is 3. Since we're by a fraction, I'm going to put 3 over 1 plus b. We can cross-simplify here because they're both the same. So let's get rid of it. And when we do, we have negative 5 equals 2 times nothing, so 2 plus b. Subtract 2, we get negative 7 equals b. Our third step is to use y equals mx plus b again, but this time only m and b. So y equals 2/3 x minus 7. Now, it doesn't say how to write our answer explicitly, but it actually does. See how they ask the question? They ask in standard form. That means you answer in standard form. So since they ask in standard form, you must answer in standard form. That means we need to take that fourth step to standard form, ax plus by equals c. So the equation we came up with, y equals negative 2/3 x minus 7. I'm going to get rid of that fraction. So to get rid of the fraction, I need to multiply everything by 3 over 1. So 3 times y equals 3 over 1. That's going to happen. 3 over 1 times 2/3 minus 3 times 7. You can put everything over 1. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. So we can cancel out those 3's. And we have 3 times y is 3y equals nothing times 2x. I forgot the x there. So just 2x. Minus 7, or 3 times 7, which is negative 21. We're going to subtract 2x over. And when we do, we have negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 21. But remember, we can't have the negative in front. So to get rid of it, we multiply everything by negative 1. And we get 2x minus 3y equals 21. All right. The lab and worksheet, the little lab worksheet that you have to do, it all comes from, so the lab worksheet you have to do, it comes, all of chapter 3, it's 3.1 to 3.5, but focus on 3.4 and 3.5. Okay, focus on those. That most of the worksheet is 3.4, 3.5. All right, this is where I want you to pause and see if you can do this example on your own, and then come back and figure out if we got the same answer. I put A and B here. I forgot to put it on your notes, so please copy down A and B and see if we can get to it, okay? Alrighty. So in 2014, the average price for a new home sold in the U.S. was $342,800. In 2009, the average of a new home in the U.S. was $268,200. Let Y be the average price of a new home, and X be the year where X0 represents the year 2009. This is real data. Let's write a linear equation. So it does say write equation line, so we know we're going to do those few steps. So our first step is to always find that slope. So to find our slope, we need to figure out some of the points that we're given. Let's pull out what we're given. We're given 2014 is 342.80, and then we're also given 2009 is 268,200. Since we're talking about points, that's always X and Y, and it's telling us here that Y is the price. It's the price of the home, and X is the number of years, or X equals 0, represents the year 2009. So it's saying X represents years, but X equals 0 equals 2009. So the two things we're given is 2014 and 342,800. So we need to figure out 2014 and 2009. How many years apart is that? It's 5 years. 2014 is 5 years after 2009. Then we're also given 2009. It's $268,200, but it's telling us 2009 X is 0, so we have 0, 268,200. So that's when they started collecting this data, was in 2009. We have our points. Let's go ahead and plug them in. The reason why we plug them in is because we have 2 points, and we're not given a slope. So if you're given 2 points, always plug it in. We have M equals Y2, which is 268,200, minus Y1. Y1 is 342,800, and that's all over X2, which is 0, minus X1, which is 5. So we simplify. Let's see, 26820 minus 342,800, we get negative 74,600 divided by negative 5, and we're left with 14,920 is our M. Alright, our second step, just like before, so we're given 14,920 is M, and we pick a point. I'm going to use 0 and 268,200 because it's smaller. Well, let's plug it in. Okay, so when we plug it in, I plugged in, that's supposed to be 0. I'm sorry, guys. X and Y. It's okay to mess up. Just make sure you write everything. You'll catch your mistakes. Label everything. So we have 268,200 equals 0 plus B. So that is our B. Our last step is to do y equals mx plus b. So did we even need to do step 2? Because we have x at 0 and y is a number? No, if that's the case, skip step 2 and just use the y value they give you that it's attached to the x equals 0. So we plug in m, we plug in b, we have y equals 14,920x plus 2,680, or 2,006. I have a hard time saying big numbers because of something that happened when I was a kid in the 4th grade. Anyways, $268,200. Awesome. Our part B is predict the average price of a home in 2022. So 2022, that's not too far off. Let's figure out what they think the average price of a home will be in 2022. So it's telling us X is in 2022, but that's after. We need to know how long that's been since 2009. So 2022 minus 2009, and that's 13 years. So the X we're going to be using is actually 13. So we have Y equals 14,920x, which is 13, plus 200,000, 200. So we 14,920 times 13, we get 193,960 plus 268, 200. So we get 462,160. So the average cost of a home in 2022 will be $462,160. That's the national average cost of a home in 2022. Look up how much the cost of a home is in 2019 and plug in X, not as 2019, remember, so you would plug in X as 10 and figure out if it actually matches up or not, and you'll see.